I was just talking about on the car ride over here, we were like speeding through horrible traffic. I was like, you know what's great about working with teachers is that because we're all used to working on a bell schedule and like parent conferences at 7 a.m., that we're never late. Like they're really reliable. And then we're speeding over here. But anyways, we're here now. We are super excited to be here.
Yeah. So first I wanted to say about the YouTube, I am on YouTube, and one of my first homework assignments for my students is to watch my YouTube so I can become a YouTube superstar. I'm trying to get 1,000 views, so that is also your homework, is to tweet at me. I'm also trying to get 1,000 followers, so really this is just a ploy to get my following going, but yes. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about why I'm obsessed with this woman. She is actually my favorite human being. We met as part of a cohort of Washington State teacher leaders a couple years ago, but it wasn't until we both presented actually at an Ignite event for the Seattle Times that we really found our mutual passion for social justice. As teachers of color, we knew the importance of collaboration and community in order to sustain yourself as a teacher. Just to clarify, we're both biracial. We actually make one Asian lady, one white lady together when you combined us. Just pure magic. But the number one thing that I have learned from her is you have to find your people in education.
Which is what we're doing here today, and our people are teachers and administrators, which is awesome. So we're gonna start with our learning targets because this is what we would do with kids. These should look familiar to you. They are inspired by our TPEP goals. Establish a culture for learning, that's what we're doing here today, and we're establishing that learning is supposed to be fun. The Ignite format, those of you who spoke this morning, it's like a terrifying little challenge with your slides moving forward and your time limits, but it's super exciting. It's exciting for the speakers and it's exciting for the audience because just like our students, we know that even our PD, learning is supposed to be fun. Secondly, this is our professional learning community, which is excellent. We're going to make new friends today, starting right now. And let's start by giving a shout out. Do we have any first-year teachers in the room? Woo! One! Yes! Woo! It's almost June. You have got this. The rest of us have been first-year teachers before. So today for our talk, if you could just channel and send some love to your first-year teacher self, because he or she is like still recovering, am I right? It's hard out there. We're gonna do like a little tribute today to our first-year teacher selves and our one first-year teacher who isn't like in her building like crying between her prep periods, right? We're with you. But let's first start with an assessment.
Yeah. So you as teachers and educators know that the best way to assess student learning and get them so excited is a multiple choice question, obviously. So that's what we have for you. We really wanted to tap into that. So the question that we have for you is, what do you think students had the greatest positive growth, either when they received feedback just through grades on assignment, just through comments, or grades and comments? So for those of you who think just grades, why don't you raise your hand? Okay, no takers. Interesting. You've passed first part of our test, you know. How many of you think just comments? Okay, yeah, a fair number of you. And how many of you think grades and comments? Okay, interesting. So pretty split between the B and C. So you ready to find out the answer? Because that's what we're always excited about. Okay, drum rolls. And it is B. Yeah, for all those comments. It actually, just comments, have been shown on multiple studies to not just increase student achievement, but also student interest as well.
So here's the thing, teachers, we're so much like our students, right? Which means we are also distracted by summative statements about our work. We all deserve meaningful feedback, which, does any of you remember when your teacher feedback before TPEP looked like this? Raise your hand if you ever had one of these. Yeah, you know what's not satisfying about one of two choices for the scope of the work that we do every day, all year, is this.
So I'm gonna tell you a little bit of story about my first year teaching, which As you might have guessed, it was mostly failing and crying. This is a picture of me when I first started teaching. I was a little new baby face, idealized teacher, no idea what I was getting into. I'm still smiling in this picture, so it's obviously not very far into the school year. That will change in a couple days. But when I first started teaching, I teach at a school for recent immigrants to the US. 100% of my students are all immigrants and refugees. And when I started teaching, I also didn't have my ELL endorsement yet, so did not know what I was doing. So the only thing I knew what to do was to take this textbook that was 10 grades above their reading level, because they were reading at a first grade level and I was teaching Algebra 1, and just copy the worksheets. I didn't even know how to correctly use a copy machine, so they were like badly slanted and just doing all sorts of stuff. No idea. So obviously my students couldn't understand anything I was saying because I was talking too fast like I am now, and their frustration with not understanding the math turned into anger. One student used a Sharpie and drew some rather strong language, if you know what I'm saying, on a paper, ripped it up in my face. Another student, when I tried a new seating chart, one of these projector screens drew on Sharpie another picture of inappropriate things for me. I should have just gotten rid of those markers, but didn't do that. But I really didn't need someone to tell me I was unsatisfactory. I knew that. I knew that from the constant swearing. I knew that from the markers being thrown at me. I didn't even know how to get my students to sit still for 5 minutes. This is an accurate story. I started timing it, and when I hit the 5-minute mile mark, I had my own little celebration. I also knew it from those daily cries home. It will get better, I promise you. I didn't need that. I needed something different. I needed some meaningful and specific feedback. I needed a specific framework. I needed empathy.
Oh, the slide. This is what happened when we have tech challenges in the classroom. We just keep going. So empathy, this is such a buzzword in education. And I'm an English teacher, guys. This is killing me right now. I just want you to know. This is such a buzzword in education in the last few years. We love talking about empathy. We love talking about social emotional learning. But let's actually have an empathetic moment right now instead of just talking about it. In your table groups, go ahead and think of a gem from your first year teaching, or perhaps that you've experienced already this week. And just share on your table, what is a highlight from your first year teaching? This will be very cathartic. Take a minute, go ahead and turn and talk first year teaching stories. Come on back together. In 3, 2, 1. Who would like to share? Who had a particularly excellent gem from their first year teaching, or their friend at their table had an amazing story? Go ahead, girlfriend. Tell us. Use your loud teacher voice. Tell us what happened.
Very first day of teaching, fire department called, cut one of my students out of his desk because his hand was stuck through the drainage.
Got it. Got it. That was some solid work avoidance right there. He just went all in. I like it. Who else? I know that there's stories all over this room because first year's teaching, guys, it's rough. Who's got another one? First year teaching.
We know teacher wait time.
You guys, it's too hard. It's too soon, isn't it? You can't, I get it. Yeah.
One of my first jobs was Caucasian girl walking into Hawaiian homestead land and teaching with a group of kids that were not real open to outsiders coming in, and very angry little people because parents are all kinds of messed up in general. And me giving a direction and a 6th grader saying, F you, bitch, and flipped the desk over and walked out. And I'm like,
you know what?
there we go.
I love it. Love it. That's good. I'm from Hawaii. I get that. I get that animosity. 6th graders, they're 11. They look so cute, but not that cute. I'm gonna share. Oh wow, we got another one. Let's hear it.
Well, to follow up on the flipping of tables, first year teacher my friend shared her first year teaching experience at a parent-teacher conference. The mother misinterpreted the information being given about her daughter's reading performance. Because her daughter was struggling with reading, the mother got so upset decided that her child would drop out of school and become pregnant and flip the table over at the teacher because she was so mad.
Yes, that parent also gets an award. I'm not sure what award that is. That's awesome. First-year teachers are hard. I'm going to tell a story about my first year teaching. Like Saraswati, I was also my student's third teacher by the time I got there in October. I was so excited to have my own first classroom. So I get there, and the first thing I see is that my classroom is actually the former wood shop at my school, and it's this little cement room with no windows. That winter, I would find out that it also frequently had no heat, and it was packed. The teacher that had come before me, they must have been like collectors, because it was just packed with like old books with pages ripped out. There were like old cassette tapes. Remember those? With like the tape had been pulled out. Those were in all of the corners. There was like cereal boxes, collectors. So this was my classroom, but I cleaned it all up. I was like, oh, the wood shop, it's kind of like, I don't know, like Scandinavian, right? Like it's, okay, we'll make it work. I was so excited. I wrote this like, earnest letter to my students. It was like a poem, really, about how, like, this is my first year teaching, and we're all going to do this together, and I had learned so many things in graduate school, and it's just going to be a journey. And I had known that they had had 2 other teachers before, but I was there for them, and it was going to be a great year. So I wrote this letter, I photocopied it and brought it to my first day of school, and I passed it out and stood in front of my middle schoolers, nervous but ready, and one by one, they each crumpled it up and threw it on the ground. Before I was even done with my welcome speech, one boy in one of my classes stood up and said to all of the people in the class, well, he said something that I'm not going to say right now, but then he followed it up with, we should all walk out right now. And then half of them did. That was just my first day. Within the first few weeks of my class of being a teacher, a student actually urinated in my classroom. That was awesome. It was rough. It was really hard for a long time, but by the end of the year, some amazing things had happened. In my class, we had created this awesome community event that was like this spoken word hip-hop event, and people from all over the community came to participate in it. It was totally student-led. We had come together by the end of the year as a community. When I first got there, my classes were totally segregated socially and also by race and culture. By the end of the year, we were all in this one mismatched, imperfect family, really doing this work together. My students' test scores had jumped 4 times what I had been told was their expectation, which was incredible because when I got there in the fall, some of my students were testing at a 3rd grade reading level. I was teaching 7th and 8th grade. It was amazing, and it was hard work, but it was worth it. It was really, we had done it together, me and my students. We had learned how to be in that classroom together that year. And so I was really proud when my principal came in. It was like the last few days of school. I didn't even know that there was going to be a second observation, but she came in for an unannounced observation. And I was grateful for there to be another, it was very isolating being a first-year teacher. I was grateful for there to be another adult in the room to see where my kids had come from, or where they had ended up from what they had come from. It was an awesome thing happening in that classroom. She came in and I was like, oh, great, come in. My kids and I were all in the front of the classroom leaning in. We were analyzing a music video for tone and metaphor. We were all in it together, right? This one class community that had started in a disaster, and by the end of the lesson, they were engaged, they were fired up, it was student-led, and I was so excited to read my evaluation, to see some kind of reflection of the journey that we had taken together. I got my evaluation back, and sure enough, I did have satisfactory marked, and then I had one sentence. It said, Andy was wearing his hat the whole class. And that's what that was the end of my evaluation. This was definitely not satisfying at all. And that's why I'm so excited to be opening this event here today, because I get it. Like teachers, we deserve meaningful feedback, just like our students do.
Yeah, we definitely deserve better. We deserve better than unsatisfactory, satisfactory. And that's what TPEP does, is it provides a framework for us where it has more than just standardized test scores. That's not just what we're being based on, whether or not our students pass the SBAC, because teaching really is multidimensional. Teaching is about professional learning communities. Teaching is about engaging families. Teaching is about creating a safe and productive learning environment.
So let's break this down. Let's see how TPEP helps us do this, because I know it's overwhelming, right? It's like this huge rubric. It's like color-coded with lots of different bullet points, and it's like, do we call them, is it like criterion, criteria? I don't know. It's a lot. So let's break this down. TPEP, it actually helps us out a lot. Let's start with criterion 1. This is basically about we get it, that all students can. This means critical thinking and student leadership at all grade levels, starting with our littlest kindergartners all the way up to our seniors in high school.
Criterion 5, this is about real relationships with your students, real human beings. For my students that are all immigrants and refugees, this means that I see them. This means that they know that I'm with them and I'm fighting for their rights with them. This is about not theoretical students decided by some test score. This is real human beings.
Criterion 7. This is about understanding that our students are the people that they come from. This is about understanding that our students' families are our co-educators. They are their students' first educators, and that we are all in this together.
Criterion 8, this is what today is about. This is why we are here today, collaborating with each other. We get it. It takes time to write subplans. It takes time to find a sub. I know I almost didn't make it here today, but I'm here, thankfully. It takes time to prep your students and to drive all the way down to Tacoma, wherever you're from, or I guess some of you might be coming up since we're from all over, but it takes time to drive here and come here and spend time. But we realize the importance of collaboration. We realize the importance of having a team because we're in this together.
Criterion 8, we're actually going to give you 2 strategies right now about how you can build your network and nail your Criterion 8. So everyone's going to be distinguished by the end of today.
So the first thing I heard, there was some mention about Twitter, and I'm also, trying to get you all to follow me. But as well, this is a hashtag that you can use. And for those of you who associate it just as a £, come see me, because Twitter can really revolutionize your teaching practice. But by using this hashtag, you can connect with educators, specifically in Washington State and around the globe. So I challenge you to take out your phones, it's not rude, either download the app as a first step, or if you're a Twitter superstar, use this hashtag so we can stay in communication. Tweet out a resource that you found, share what's happening in your classroom, ask for support when that 3rd marker is thrown at you.
Tweet us out a high 5.
Tweet us out high 5.
Your favorite emoji, whatever. But start the network so that when we leave today, we can continue being connected. Right. Next step is I invite you all to join us at Roll Call. This is my 2017 TED Ed Innovation Project. This project is connecting students and teachers from all over the world around 2 questions. 1, what do you have in common with your students? Or for students, what do you have in common with your teachers? And the second question, does it matter that students and teachers have things in common? So we see all these different criteria for TPEP. Criterion 8, this is really about how do you make sure that your classroom doesn't feel like an island? How do you make sure that your connections that you start at awesome professional development, like today, can extend and go back with you when you go back into your buildings?
So as teachers, we got to return to our learning targets, because that's what we do. So our targets for today were establishing a culture for learning and participating in a professional community. And while I think we mastered that beautifully, these are not just learning targets for our talk, but these are really learning targets for today. So take these with you, especially participating and making connections, because a lot of times we get isolated in our building or in our district. So use this time to connect with one another.
We hear so much about how it takes a village to raise a child. It actually takes a village to raise a teacher too. And that's what we're here today doing, is we are making that village. We are the village.
And TPEP is that village blueprint. It is providing that framework and giving us some direction.
Thank you so much. It's going to be an excellent day today. Thanks for listening. I am Kristin Leong.
And I'm Saraswati Noel. Follow me on Twitter.